Okay, hello everybody, welcome to TìandTarot, or welcome back to TìandTarot if you've been here before. So today's reading is starting off October, so this is spooky season, so we're doing a light spooky theme today, and we're looking at someone who ghosted you, and you don't know why, so we're going to be looking at why. Like, this is somebody who you're curious about, you're just like, hey, why did the communication stop here? What was behind that reason? And what's going to happen next? You know, will they come back in? Won't they? Where will it be left? What's the closure looking like? So we're going to be looking at that today. And we have 3 piles for you to choose from, pile 1, 2 and 3. So we have Geranium, balance your chakras, for pile 1. We have Robin, connect with your ancestors, for pile 2. And we have Wolf, work in a team, for pile 3. You can also pick your pile based on the number of the pile, the number in the timestamps below in the description box, along with the zodiac signs in the description box below as well. You can even choose your pile based on the energy of the pile, which is the way that I would recommend. And once you have picked your pile, there will be a timestamp in the description box below for you to find your reading more easily. And I will meet you there. Bye! Okay, hello my pile 1, so you chose Geranium, balance your chakras. So, let's get into some more oracle cards so we can find out why this person ghosted you. So we have a cartographer, a crossroads exploration. We have the walker, the unknown, a journey. And we have the adventurer, responsibility and expectations in reverse. We also have cinnamon, reconnect to your power. We also have chamomile, time to relax. And we also have malachite, get ready for personal transformation. I think this person's expectations of you didn't live up to the reality of you. And that's not a reflection on you, by the way. It's not like, oh, well, you should have done more to like, no. It's not necessarily that you did more or less than what they were expecting. It's just that you were different to what they anticipated once they actually got to know you. And I think they maybe also, just on like a personal note, felt like the way their life was heading and what was aligned with them was different from the way your life was heading and was aligned with you, and maybe they didn't feel like you completely fit into their picture of the future they had for themselves. And I honestly don't think it's a like serious thing here. Like, I don't think it's like you did something that needs to be worked on or that needs to be, you know, thought about. I don't even think they did it because it's like they needed to do it for their well-being or whatever. I don't think that. I think it's just one of those things where there wasn't enough effort being put in on their end, and so they just didn't really value this connection as much as maybe you did. And so for them it wasn't a big deal kind of stepping away and doing a different thing and going in a different direction. You were just kind of like an episode of their life to them. You were someone who was there for that time period, for that thing, which is very harsh, but that is how some people look at people. They saw you as kind of a temporary stepping stone in their life, a moment to remember, and then they could move on. And they don't even necessarily see you as someone who is like left behind. I think they feel like they could reach out at any point and try to rekindle things if they wanted to, and have it not be a big deal. Because to them, the walking away isn't a big deal, but to you it might be. Like, to you, you might be like, wow, I'm kind of hurt that they didn't say anything as they sort of made their exit. But maybe to them, they think this is a really normal way of communicating. For them, maybe it is. Maybe this is their norm. And so they don't see it as a big deal. So I think it's just a difference of understanding of what type of relationship you had and the level of the connection you had, but also a difference in the way you'd like to be communicated with as well. We also have the Star card in reverse. So in terms of like an outcome here, what I am seeing is that you have a very special energy that is overlooked a lot of the times. I think people tend not to notice the value that you bring into situations. They don't tend to notice. They do and they don't. Like, they are aware of your value because they wouldn't use it otherwise. They wouldn't try to take a bit of it from you. They wouldn't try to be around you. But they don't see it as something that will ever not be accessible to them, because it almost feels like you would accept or allow people to sort of come and go, which again isn't a good thing, isn't a bad thing. There's no sort of critique on that. It's just that's who you are and that's how people perceive you as well. So I think this coming and going is because you've created such a welcoming environment and a non-judgmental sort of diplomatic environment for people, where they can just kind of waltz into your life and waltz out and have that not be something they think about really, well, particularly with this person in any event. And so what I'm seeing is a little bit of like a transformation, a little bit of a change with you, because it almost feels like when connections are made in your life, you might invest in those, as you should, fair do. You might invest in those, but with more energy than the other person. So a change is needed to be able to identify what connections are actually worth you putting in 100%. What ones should you kind of put your all into, and what ones can you recognize are just sort of loosey-goosey connections. And the way of doing that is kind of taking into account the other person's approach as well, but also recognizing that people are different, and their way of showing that a connection is important to them can look different to yours and can be different to yours. So even then, even when you're trying to gauge how someone feels about a connection with you, sometimes the way that they're showing commitment to it, or even rejection of it, or like not valuing it that much, can look different to you. So for you, you might think, but they spent time with me and they messaged me and they went out with me like every single night to spend time together. How could this connection not mean that much to them? But to them, that might be the norm. But for you, that's the like exception. So somehow it's about like, I can see this glow up kind of coming in for you, this transformation, where you're now someone who's able to move more fluidly and recognize when connections are worth your energy and when they're not, and trying to pick up on what that other person is inputting and trying to feel out the vibes. You're thinking about the balance. I think the world is just so big and bright, and there's so many more opportunities for you out there. So I'm not seeing like any sort of like a reaching out or resolution for you. I do feel like this is a connection that will now stay in the past. So I'm not seeing any sort of changes there for you. But am I seeing new connections of the same coming in for you? Yes. Not the same in terms of ghosting you, but am I seeing more connections coming in for you? Yes, I'm seeing that, but not with that person. So I think whoever that person was, they are kind of now just a blip in the road. They were a part of your storyline, of your lifeline, but they're not gonna circle back. So I'm not seeing a resolution there, but I am seeing a kind of lesson there for them that might come up for them down the road, of like, you actually should probably close and end connections with people rather than leave them open. Like I'm seeing a result where they need to. Like I'm seeing an opportunity that comes up in their life that makes them pause and reflect on how to actually handle situations. I think as well, it's just a case of, unfortunately, like whether or not they valued the connection with you. And I think with this person, that just wasn't the case. They just did not value this connection. And I think they will value, like, they seem to be prioritizing connections with others. There could have been, like, I think down the line, I think there will be somebody who they value in the same way that, like, you valued them. And they might get a little bit of a taste of their own medicine a little bit. That's something I'm kind of seeing. I also think that this person struggles with closeness, which could also have been a cause for the ghosting as well. Like, I think they struggle in terms of, like, allowing people in, and also not only allowing people in, but also, like, getting comfortable with the way they feel in connections, because I think this person likes to keep others at an arm's length, and they don't really want to let them in. They feel very cold, almost, and quite calculating, and they only do things that will help to elevate their lives if they perceive it to be that way at the time. So, for example, what I'm kind of seeing in my mind is, like, if you have, like, a work colleague, they are literally just a work colleague, but maybe you felt more of a friend vibe. But then once you guys start working at different jobs, that friendship kind of crumbles, because for them, you were a work friend, but not like a friend, and for you, they were a friend. It's like in that episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where, like, Jake is trying to prove that he's a friend to Terry, and Terry's like, no, you're a work friend, and then eventually he proves that he's a friend. But, like, it's kind of like that. Like, you can have a different understanding to somebody else, of what this connection is, and it just falls out of sync, and it's just the way of life. And this just feels like a way of life kind of falling out of sync and moving away. It's just the natural progression of things. And I also don't think this person, to be honest, because they didn't value this connection or prioritize you, they probably weren't really going to add much to your life anyway. So there's probably not, you know, it's not worth mourning over. I know, like, it's easier said than done because you probably have a lot of feelings in it. But I honestly don't think that if this person had stayed in your life that you would have enjoyed that necessarily, or that anything would have come of that, or that it would have been fruitful or helpful. Because if they didn't prioritize you or value you, then they're not gonna, you know, put effort in or help you or support you or, like, you know, be there for you when you need them to. So I just feel like you were at different stages of your lives and you both valued different things, and so that created a lack of alignment there, which then meant you didn't really balance each other out well. So it wasn't really a good fit. That's all it is. And I think natural circumstances pulled you away from each other. So maybe, as I said, like a new job for somebody, or maybe new sort of like time constraints or social demands that meant that this person needed to put their focus and attention elsewhere. And that was maybe a really easy shift for them, and they didn't even really think about it that much. But maybe for you, that then felt hard because you're getting like left behind sort of thing. In terms of like what's next then, I'm definitely seeing that you're able to cut through these illusions better in the future. These illusions of like friendship and closeness, like you're able to really genuinely look at a connection and see what it is for what it is. Rather than kind of have the wool pulled over your eyes by somebody else, trying to make you feel like the connection is more than it is. So I see that for you, and then I also just see that you are somebody who makes sure you're doing well and you feel good about connections before you invest into them. So rather than being this sort of like nurturing empress straight away, you first make sure that they're in sync with you. Because the thing is with the empress, if she isn't in sync with what's around her, then she's not happy, and then nobody else is happy either. So it's really important that like you prioritize yourself, and I can see you doing that. You're making sure that first you see if someone fits you, if you enjoy their company, if you like being around them, and then you see whether or not you want to invest all of that sort of lovely nurturing energy before kind of allowing people into your life. So that's what, in terms of like a big way, in terms of a deep connection, you're able to identify surface level connections from deep level connections. So that is what I'm seeing. Pile 1, I hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe. And if you were drawn to any other piles, feel free to check those out now. If not, I hope to see you here next week on Tuesdays and Thursdays for another reading on TìandTarot. Bye! Okay, hello my pile 2s, welcome to your reading. So you chose the Robin, connect with your ancestors. And we're going to be looking at why this person ghosted you and what's kind of next there. So we have Summer, embrace gratitude in reverse. We have Carnelian in reverse with define success for you. And we have the Full Moon in reverse with release what no longer serves you. We also have the Air in reverse with unseen potential and hesitation. We have the Waker with awareness and reflection in reverse. And we have the Priest in reverse with perseverance and faith. Okay, I think this person may have ghosted you because I don't think they saw the potential or the effort on your end. Like, I don't think they saw how much you actually valued this person. They weren't seeing effort or reciprocity, at least in their mind. Like, this could go totally against what you're thinking, but from their mind, like, that was the case. Like, you weren't prioritizing them. You weren't prioritizing them in their mind, and you also weren't creating any sort of longevity. You weren't being committed. You weren't showing that you could give them what they need. You weren't creating stability in their eyes. This is just their perspective, but they didn't see that you valued them. They didn't see that you wanted anything with them. It's interesting that you got the King of Swords there with the sword pointing down, because that's you sort of being out of connection with your ancestors, because it's pointed down with the higher powers. And then you've got the Robin sort of suggesting you need to reconnect with them. So I think there's something you needed to realize, especially with all these eyes that we're seeing as well. To be honest, even though I'm getting all that of like they didn't feel valued by you, they didn't feel like you were grateful of them or that you wanted them or needed them, that doesn't necessarily mean that those things are the truth or that that was the case. A lot of people can actually be very ungrateful to people who do a lot for them. So what I'm actually seeing is that you probably made like a good escape, a lucky escape, because this person wasn't really valuing you. They weren't seeing all the stuff you did do for them. And I think they then have ghosted you because they didn't see value in you. But what they were probably seeing was a reflection of themselves. And the reason why we're getting this calling to connect with your ancestors is because you almost slightly helped or enabled this idea that they had that you weren't doing anything, because you really struggle with self-esteem and your insecurities, and so you almost validate that maybe you weren't a good, friend or partner or colleague, whoever this was, by sort of agreeing with them and almost thinking you needed to do more and keep doing more and keep doing everything for them. And so you're getting this call to reconnect with your ancestors because you kind of need their guidance to reclaim your power again, to find your worth and put yourself back on top. Your ancestors have something to give you, to help you learn, grow, follow in their footsteps. Because I think you have quite a vulnerable state of being at the moment. And I think your ancestors are like, we could help you out. Here's this piece of knowledge, but you kind of need to reconnect with them. I think that connection was actually keeping you out of sync with your ancestors as well. So it was actually really good that they have ghosted you. In a sense, it's a blessing in disguise, because now it's going to help open that channel of communication for you where you can inherit that knowledge now and start building that legacy, start building that commitment and that success, but for yourself. Instead of investing it into connections that aren't valuable to you, you can start putting it towards yourself. Yeah, this was a very unequal, unbalanced connection. What's interesting is that I think you really struggled to stand up for yourself, to allow that sort of inner fire within that wants to protect yourself to come out. It's kind of been dormant within you and suppressed a little bit, and that's kind of preventing justice from happening in this situation, because this person is getting away with thinking that they were the great thing in this connection and you did nothing when you were actually doing all of it, and they were neglecting you or not being grateful of you. And so what I'm seeing with the Justice and the Strength card there together in reverse is that the only way justice will be served to this person, the only way resolution will be had here, maybe vindication as well, is if you actually do tap into this ancestral power, see your worth and start standing up for yourself. Like when you start doing that and you start reinvesting into yourself, that's when justice can be served, because when they come out of the woodwork and they try and message you, either in a good way or a bad way, you'll be able to respond to them appropriately, rather than sort of going straight back into that dynamic that you had before, where maybe you agreed with them and agreed that you weren't good enough, or agreed you weren't doing enough, or maybe even beg for them back when you shouldn't. So, or, try and invite them back into your life. So first, you kind of need to unlock that ancestral power, which will then lead to that strength kind of coming out and you being able to stand up for yourself when they reach out to you, because I do think they will. Especially because we've got the Fool there, so this sort of new journey, this new leaf turning over. I think this person might try to reach out to you, but you have to pour back into yourself to reclaim that inner strength. You have to pour back into yourself to make sure that you're not vulnerable to whatever they attempt, whatever reconciliation they attempt. I also see a lot of looking at what you've got from this situation and feeling really unhappy with it, but this is actually such a good thing that they ghosted you in a sense, because it's freed you. But I can see you kind of mulling over the past, maybe regretting it, maybe longing, and feeling kind of stuck and feeling like you've been left in limbo almost, which definitely isn't the case. You've actually been given an opportunity here to free yourself and reconnect with what you were supposed to reconnect with. This was a really good shake-up, a really good change, a really good shift for you, where now the power that was being taken from you is now actually ironically being given back, because of this ghosting. So this was actually a really amazing thing. I think they actually have a lot of inner turmoil when it comes to ghosting you, even if they're not willing to admit it to themselves, and they might not even know that them ghosting you is what's causing this inner turmoil. But I think they are just not happy with themselves, to be honest. This is just something I'm seeing. I'm just seeing that they're not happy with the choices they've made, the decisions they've made, the way they've treated you. But they're not going to reflect on it in a really constructive way. I think they'll allow it to fester and allow this to be a deep, dark fear or secret of theirs that maybe they're the problem. But for you, I see growth and change and renewal and improvement so long as you're willing to take your ancestral advice to know your worth and start standing up for yourself and start investing in you instead of putting so much weight into connections with whoever this was. And whatever type of relationship this was as well. So I see a massive new journey for you, massive glow up of you now pouring back into yourself rather than pouring out into others so that you can get into sync with your ancestors again. Instead of growing everybody else's garden, you're finally growing your own, and you're taking care of yourself and building this amazing legacy and support for yourself as well. So that's what I see for you, pile 2. I hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and if you're drawn to any other piles, feel free to check those out now. If not, I hope to see you here next week on Tuesdays and Thursdays for another reading on TìandTarot. Bye! Okay, hello my pile 3s, welcome to your reading. So let's look into why this person ghosted you. So you have Wolf, work in a team, and we're going to look at some other oracle cards for you to get some more answers. So we have the Assassin in reverse with ruthlessness and conviction. We also have the Warrior, perfectionism and burnt out. And we also have the Tailor with attention to detail and pride. We also have Patchouli, find emotional balance. We also have Jasmine, awaken your sensual self. We also have Winter, look within. Okay, so I do think that this person ghosted you because they weren't getting what they needed from you. I think you struggled to value them and show that you valued them and their opinion, especially if you guys clashed on a lot of stuff. So when I think of working in a team, not only is that of course cooperation, but that's also sharing of different ideas as well. And you might have not been very receptive to other ideas, maybe preferring control, maybe preferring to be the one in charge. And so maybe you were a little bit ruthless or harsh with your opinion on other people's ideas, or particularly their ideas, and you let your pride get in the way, you know, even when you knew you were wrong, or even when you knew maybe you were pushing things too far. You never actually apologized or addressed it, you just kind of moved on and breezed past it. That's kind of what I'm getting here. This could have been you, it could have been them as well, but I'm getting it's more so maybe you. And so they left because they needed more from you emotionally that you weren't giving, because you aren't at a level where you were able to give that. I think there's a lot of like opposing ideas going on between the two of you, opposing clashes. I also think rather than address feelings up front and talk about them up front to each other, there was a lot of hiding and fear, and then also like just grieving and feeling sad in the background without actually sort of coming to the other person and saying, hey, like, you know, the thing you said wasn't right, or, you know, the thing you said hurt me, or whatever. It never got addressed, and then no one ever said sorry or apologized, and so that was creating a lot of issues here. I also think that meant there were no resolutions. So we have all of these open-ended issues, all of these open-ended arguments that are not resolved, which is just festering and building sort of resentment towards each other as well. And there was a lot of lone working, lots of being by yourself, being like, yep, I did this, I did that, and not really considering their contribution, and maybe they didn't consider yours either. So no one was valuing what the other person was bringing to this relationship or this connection, because you only saw what you yourself did, and you kind of were blind to each other's effort. I do see this person coming back in to not your life, but just maybe to get some resolution, some closure. Maybe even you might send out a message as well, but it's one-sided. Whoever does reach out, the other person is not replying. That's the energy I'm getting. Like, there's too much hurt in this situation for the other person to respond. So whoever reaches out, they likely won't get a response, but there will be a reaching out of sorts. I just think there was so much hidden going on, so many hidden feelings and thoughts and rejection and hurt, a lot of negative feelings, that when they came to the surface, it kind of just blew everything up, and it didn't allow for a resolution to be had, because too much had kind of built up over time to kind of work through. The damage had been done. The opinion and the outlook on each other has now permanently been tarnished in a certain way, where it's like they can't unsee it, or you can't unsee it. Like, if you've created in your mind, like, because you've not addressed all these feelings, because you've not had these conversations, if you've created in your mind this idea of this person as being really malicious or something, even if you try and work through it and talk through it, it's not going to help, because now it's kind of set in stone. That is just how you see them, and it's not going to kind of resolve. So I think there's no coming back from it. With the Death card there's no coming back, there's no healing from it, there's no more like commitment and strength there towards each other. But there might be, you know, a message or two sent here and there. Might not even be like reconciliation messages, they might not even be like, hey, like, I regret the past, you know, whatever. It could just more so be like cathartic messages, like rambles of like, and then you did this, and then this happened, and I just, you know, and it could be messages like that, like just very cathartic rambling, stream of consciousness, why did you do this or this kind of thing. But I'm not seeing a return of this connection. So moving forward, there will be a lot of work that needs to be done on the self to kind of move forward now and make sure that things like this don't happen again, where there's like misunderstandings, misconnection, and to make sure that you build love and trust in new connections with people. I think there will just be a lot of inner work being done to build that emotional balance, that emotional maturity, to look within, to do that introspection, to figure out how to work better with others, because I'm seeing a lot of lone working, putting it all on yourself, putting all the responsibility on yourself, not talking about feelings. You're learning how to depend on people, how to share your feelings, how to trust them, how to rely on them, how to depend on them, how to involve them and include them and not shut them out, how to communicate in a way that is constructive. There's so much work here that kind of needs to be done. So I'm seeing that more so as the biggest, best outcome of this ghosting, because it's opened your eyes to an area to improve here. So in a way, it was really good in a sense that this connection didn't work out. Of course, ghosting, it could have been better than that, but you know, it is what it is, and I see that you will work on it. Because I think as well, I think you had maybe had a tendency in this connection to not talk about how you felt or all the things you thought you were doing and all the effort you were putting in, because you almost want to come across as this perfect, you know, I'm not affected by anything kind of person, where you can just crack on and you don't really feel anything, when that's not true. You were feeling a lot, and I think if maybe there had been more honesty there, that they might have heard you out more. So I think this is a really good learning lesson, where now you're going to figure out like how to communicate really well and effectively to make sure that your needs are getting met and you're being heard and valued, and you're showing what you're actually thinking about and feeling behind the scenes to allow people in to be vulnerable and create that connection, but in a way that you're comfortable with, and also in a way that helps you just communicate better with others as well. So that's what I'm seeing for you, pile 3. I hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and if you were drawn to any other piles, feel free to check those out now. If not, I hope to see you here next week on Tuesdays and Thursdays for another reading on TìandTarot. Bye!